Ladies and gentlemen, William Barr is diplomatic. He's not going to speak like H.A. Goodman or, Dan Bongino or Paul Sperry or Tom Fitton or Sarah Carter or Kimberly Strassel or Joe DeGeneva or Victoria Tenzing or John Solomon. He's not going to simply say, this was a setup. President Trump was set up and framed by corrupt intelligence officials. They utilized information linked to Clinton's funding. They utilized information linked to the Democratic Party. They knew there was no evidence to investigate, yet they fomented a 2-year investigation to serve as an extension of the Democratic Party. Facebook ads have nothing to do with national security, nor does the alleged hacking of a private entity called the Democratic National Committee that actually cheated its own candidate and then blamed Russia for informing the country that it cheated its own candidate. He's not going to speak like that. He's not going to say that. That's not how William Barr is going to speak. You're going to hear right now his answer on to Jan Crawford, the CBS interview that is absolutely fantastic, that caused James Comey to write a ridiculous article in the Washington Post. They know they're all on the run now. They're all turning on each other. Attorney General Loretta Lynch said that James Comey was not accurate. She never called the Clinton email investigation a matter. He called it a matter. Well, then why did they call it a matter when it wasn't a matter? He felt queasy and confused like he always is. He's just always queasy, confused. Nobody knows what they're doing half the time. Clinton thought that running a server was for convenience. John Brennan had no clue that the Steele dossier was purchased by Clinton. James Comey did not know of the origins of the Steele dossier. James Comey didn't even know who Huma Abedin's husband was, but we have to trust them because they're so knowledgeable about everything. So when they get caught with their pants down, it's, gosh, I didn't know. But then when they give nonsensical excuses like, we just couldn't tell President Trump about the investigation, because of protocol, then we have to, revere their amazing, endless wisdom and knowledge of intelligence. Just like John Brennan said, I don't do evidence, I do intelligence. None of this was intelligence. None of this was counterintelligence. This had to do, they became an extension of the Democratic Party. But this, you're going to hear William Barr. William Barr is basically saying, hey, we're going to prosecute people. Eventually, we're going to prosecute people if I don't get answers. They're not going to get answers because they're already turning on each other. They're not going to give answers like, hey, this was above board, it was all legal and lawful. And you're certainly not going to get the New York Times, the Washington Post, the CNN, MSNBC, all of these, this media, public relations monstrosity. You're not going to get them. You're simply not going to get them to admit, hey, you know what? They framed Trump. Trump to them is this big bully that has to be opposed at all times. They just don't like his personality. But if it was a great economy and it was a Democratic Party, we have a better economy and a better foreign policy than President Obama, who they loved. We have categorically a better economy. And President Obama destroyed Libya. President Trump actually met Kim Jong-un, something that no American president thought, no American president did, and no pundit thought was even possible. So let's listen to this. This is really, really interesting. And it's hilarious because William Barr doesn't play the reverence nonsense game, the outrage game. He doesn't care. That's why they can't stand him. They have almost as much contempt for William Barr as they do Trump. So check this out.
That you believe spying occurred into the Trump campaign.
Yes.
You've gotten some criticism for using that word.
Yeah, I guess it's become a dirty word somehow. It has never been for me. I think there's nothing wrong with spying. The question is always whether it's authorized by law.
Whether it's authorized by law. Obviously, he knows it's not authorized by law. He's not he's not stupid. He knows what's going on. He actually wrote and he said there's more reason to investigate Clinton and the uranium sale where money flowed into the Clinton Foundation. William D. Campbell, the FBI informant, stated that Russian lobbyists were bragging about their influence over the Clinton Foundation. Bill Clinton meeting with Vladimir Putin, then getting a $500,000 speaking arrangement. Yeah, they don't want to connect the dots there. But William Barr is like, he wrote the memo, and it was an unsolicited memo, oh my God. So, but listen to this. This is really interesting.
Former intelligence chiefs have said the president has made that word somewhat pejorative, that they're spying, this is a witch hunt, this is a hoax. And so your use of that word makes it seem that you're being a loyalist.
Yeah, he is not being a loyalist. It just so happens that at this moment in time, President Trump is right. It happens to be at this moment in time, President Trump is not the bully. The United States government was, well, not the government, very corrupt and powerful individuals who utilized their influence and prestige for momentary political gain, utilized the FBI and other agencies to defraud the American public. And I explain in my Federalist article below why that's a problem. What they did, ladies and gentlemen, was very dangerous. They utilized, we had a peaceful transition of power up until Trump. From Washington until Trump, we had a peaceful transition of power. What President Obama did was he basically politicized agencies to set up and frame Trump. In the worst case scenario, that if President Trump, let's say, purchased a dossier with help from Russian sources against Clinton, what do you think Democrats would do? That's what Clinton did. The dossier was compiled with Russian sources, an active Russian intelligence officer, allegedly. They're okay with it. There was never any evidence of some grandiose endeavor to conspire with Putin to hack the DNC. The United States government used Company 1 for the indictments of Russian nationals. Company 1 is CrowdStrike. They didn't even utilize U.S. intelligence. They have not guaranteed, nor have they stated with certainty the DNC was even hacked. They relied on a tech firm to give them images and copies of the servers. That tech firm, CrowdStrike, was paid by Democrats. It's the equivalent of a defense attorney saying, well, you know what, we will give you the copies of the fingerprints on the safe. And as you can see, my client was nowhere near the safe. His fingerprints are not on it. See, we gave you, pristine copies of the safe. Nobody would allow that. But let's continue. And he goes on to say, look, I have not received sufficient answers. I have not received sufficient answers pertaining to the questions that I've asked. Was this surveillance lawful? Very simple question. Now we're going to declassify documents. You have John Huber hopefully doing something with the Clinton email investigation that's still ongoing. And yes, she's running again. Hillary Clinton is running again. That's basically set in stone. And they will lose again. All of this was to pave the way for Clinton 2020. All of this. But you have a situation, ladies and gentlemen, where they deceived FISA judges. You had Peter Strzok, who said, we will stop Trump. You have Andrew McCabe, who leaked information only because his wife received hundreds of thousands of dollars in money from Terry McAuliffe. You have, in my Federalist article below, I explained, James Clapper knew there was no evidence in 2016. And so there you go. There was no evidence. The United States government does not back any of its major claims by certainty or any guarantee. They are running with intelligence, quote unquote, that cannot be verified with certainty by the United States government. But let's continue.
It's part of the craziness of the modern day that if a president uses a word, then all of a sudden it becomes off bounds. It's a perfectly good English word. I'll continue to use it.
It's a perfectly good English word. I'll continue to use it. I love it. He's like, this is ridiculous. Well, I'm supposed to be scared of using a word. Why? Why should he worry about using a word? Because it implicates them. Because it wasn't about national security. The whole thing with the Helsinki summit, like, oh my God, look what he did with Putin. He didn't punch Putin in the face. What did you expect him to do? The United States government isn't even certain the DNC was even hacked. And by the way, the DNC emails and the campaign emails informed the United States of America of massive corruption. And Debbie Wasserman Schultz and other DNC officials were forced to resign in disgrace. One would think the Democratic Party would rebuild. Instead, they doubled down. Now they have AOC not voting on Medicare for all because they just used that as a carrot to get voters to vote for them. They have a Democratic Party. The Democratic Party owns the House. Why don't they vote on a Medicare for all bill? Because they'd rather live on Twitter and moralize and pontificate and preach on Twitter. They live in a cyber reality, Democrats. That's why most Americans don't want impeachment. And on Twitter, it's like an impeachment frenzy. I am not on Twitter, but I can see what takes place on Twitter. I deleted my Twitter account. Best thing I ever did. And my Facebook account. Best thing I ever did. But let's continue.
What have you seen? What evidence? What makes you think I need to take a look at this?
Like many other people who are familiar with intelligence activities, I had a lot of questions about what was going on, and I assumed I'd get answers when I went in, and I have not gotten answers that are at all satisfactory, and in fact have probably more questions, and that some of the facts that I've learned don't hang together with the official explanations of what happened.
What do you mean by that?
He asked questions pertaining to criminal behavior, pertaining to the prosecution and indictment, eventually, of James Comey, Clapper, Brennan, McCabe, Strzok, all of them, Sally Yates. These people engaged in illegal activity. They engaged in Lisa Page. They engaged in illegal activity. James Baker is under criminal investigation. Andrew McCabe is under criminal investigation. They all know what they did. Look, if you're James Comey right now, if you're Andrew McCabe, if you're Peter Strzok, if you're Clapper, you're Brennan, you're up the creek without a paddle. You have two entities backing you, both corrupt and inept. You have the media that is like a slithering reptile that will just slither towards whatever it feels is more convenient or lucrative. So when it was the Bush administration, the media was pretty much on Bush's side. Now the media has completely done a reversal. Now it's firmly an extension of the Democratic Party. But the media is fickle, as is the intelligence community. So, and the Democratic Party is not even a political party. It's an extension of two people. That's right. It's my extension, if you know what I mean. It's an extension of Bill Clinton, which many people have seen this extension, if you know what I mean. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. What a great extension. I call it my extension cord, the Democratic Party, that is. Comey, Strzok, McCabe, Clapper, and they didn't need a handwritten note from Hillary Clinton. That's not the way it works. Clinton, Bubba Bill, and Madam Cyberhack, they represent one political spectrum, one political faction, the most powerful up until recently in American politics. What both Bill and Hillary did is Madam Cyberhack, after losing to President Obama in 2008, said, look, there is no way with a media that is objective I can win. So what they did was they ensured, and we learned from the campaign emails and DNC emails, we should all look back because they were pristine. Russia didn't write them. Even if Russia hacked the DNC, Putin didn't write the emails. No, it was Debbie Wasserman Schultz. It was Clinton's campaign. And they state categorically that, oh, by the way, there are friendly journalists at the New York Times. One journalist called himself a hack and told Clinton's campaign chair not to not to tell anyone that he was getting an article pre-publication. They didn't do that with Manafort. Gee, I wonder why. They didn't do that with Trump's campaign. You're talking about a rigged primary from a corrupt Democratic Party. And when Clinton runs and loses again, Madam Cyberhack, the Golden Muumuu, will take the Democratic Party. First, what will take place is something will happen, and then you'll see the Golden Muumuu ascend, and they'll be like, oh my God, this is what we've wanted the whole time. We need Hillary. She's right there. And then she'll look down as she's like levitating up in the Golden Muumuu, and she'll be like, you want me? Are you sure you want me? Because Russia tried to influence the election and take it from us. Yes, we want you, Hillary. And anyone who doesn't want the Golden Muumuu will be ostracized to an extent we've never seen before. So thank God I got away from the left. Thank God. It's like not just a circular firing squad. It was just, it's going to become more vicious. It's going to make Correct the Record look like, like they wrote Hallmark cards. It is going to be so horrendous. I suggest if you're on the left or independent or just, I suggest everyone just leave Twitter, leave Facebook, and just enjoy the madness and mayhem just from YouTube channels like this one. And, there's a lot of great ones. Black Conservative Patriot is amazing. Styx is awesome. Tim Pool is awesome. There's a lot of great ones. HB is awesome. There's a lot of great ones. Nico House is fantastic. He's amazing. He's awesome on the left. But social media is going to be horrendous because what they're going to do is when Hillary runs, it's going to be like, if you don't vote for Hillary, you are a Tiki Torch Trump supporter who is more than deplorable, worse than deplorable, horrendous, atrocious, and they're going to find new derogatory words, adjectives. But anyway, I digress. Let's continue with William Barr.
That's all I really will say. Things are just not jiving.
So this was actually Jan, what's your name? Jan Crawford. This was actually a really, really great, interview because it kind of, it harkened back to a time where a reporter or journalist would actually ask questions and not frame the questions in such a way to make it seem like, the orange, horrible fiend in the White House is just, must be stopped at all costs. So this journalist asked questions of William Barr, and let's just listen to this in its entirety here.
They're spying, this is a witch hunt, this is a hoax. And so your use of that word makes it seem that you're being a loyalist.
It's part of the craziness of the modern day that if a president uses a word, then all of a sudden it becomes off bounds. It's a perfectly good English word. I'll continue to use it.
What have you seen? What evidence? What makes you think I need to take a look at this?
Like many other people who are familiar with intelligence activities, I had a lot of questions about what was going on, and I assumed I'd get answers when I went in, and I have not gotten answers that are at all satisfactory, and in fact have probably more questions, and that some of the facts that I've learned don't hang together with the official explanations of what happened.
What do you mean by that?
That's all I really will say. Things are just not jiving.
Whether he...
So you have a situation where he knows what's going on. He's referring to prosecutions. He's referring to future indictments. He is literally saying, look, I don't have the answers I want. What he means is, yeah, I don't have the answers I want, but the reason I don't have these answers is because people engaged in criminal acts. They engaged in criminal activity. James Comey leaked classified memos, according to Chuck Grassley. If you, and this is horrible reporting by generally left-leaning reporters or journalists. Chuck Grassley on his homepage, let's go to his homepage, literally says, look, I looked at Comey's memos in a skiff. 4 of the 7 are classified. So he gave at least one memo to a professor outside the United States government. And it's unbelievable, like, the DNC emails, their own words, made them batty. Now they can leak, now they can just share memos with professors and find a professor who can set up, who is used as allegedly as a link to the Kremlin to set up George Papadopoulos, and then Alexander Downer said something, and look at the obstruction. It's Michael Cohen said something, James Comey said something. How do we know Comey's memos are accurate? Since when does the United States government utilize the ranting and raving of a disgruntled FBI director? Of a government employee that was terminated? When has that ever happened? The Comey memos, we have zero clue if they were accurate. And the Comey memos, conduct involving Michael Flynn. He said that Michael Flynn, the situation should be let go. Well, even if he did say that, it wouldn't be obstruction, because it wasn't. But it's like, if you're Comey and you saw criminal behavior from the president, you should have informed somebody, but you didn't because it wasn't criminal. And how do you know it's even accurate? How do you know what Don McGahn was saying was accurate? How do you know what these people are saying was accurate? There's no evidence of anything. There are no emails, unlike the DNC emails where Debbie Wasserman Schultz had to resign because she's in disgrace. It's just innuendo and hearsay and gossip. So what Democrats did is they said, well, the DNC emails are actually accurate, and because they're so accurate, we'll just flip the script and we'll have media foment hearsay, gossip, a Steele dossier. Oh my God, he loves bodily fluids raining down upon him. And that's good enough for the media, because the truth about Democrats is equal to gossip and hearsay about Trump. He said something about this country in this region of the world. How do you know? President Obama actually destroyed a nation. Libya. Different from allegedly saying something about a country, in Africa. Gossip and hearsay is equal to the actual truth. With the truth behind the DNC emails fostered this new era of politics where hearsay, gossip, and innuendo is enough to just get people in trouble. And if it's Trump, oh my God, you have to connect the dots. If it's Clinton, well, where's your proof? They literally used to say, well, where's your proof? We have no evidence. But with Trump, it's, of course it happened. We have to just continue to investigate. And at the end of the day, they say categorically, there's no evidence. There's no evidence at all. There is no evidence at all. So, you can look and right here, page 17 of the Mueller probe, people are like, I read the Mueller probe, it's horrible. Really? Did you read this part? Further, the evidence was not sufficient to charge that any member of the Trump campaign conspired with the representatives of the Russian government to interfere in the 2016 election. You mean millions of documents, surveillance, phones being tapped, 30 plus people being indicted on crimes that have nothing to do with collusion, that would have, their sentences would have been completely absolved if they had said, oh yeah, well, you know what, Putin and Trump were emailing each other. You mean there was nothing they found? And then you hear people, I read the Mueller report, and this president is really horrible. It's like, what? They investigated the guy. He fought back the best way he could, and that's a bad person in today's world. Democrats, and this is why the left didn't like me, hit pieces. Daily Beast wrote an unethical hit piece about me, which is funny because my editor at the Huffington Post, who signed off on everything I wrote. The editors at the Huffington, when my articles would go viral at the Huffington Post and Salon and The Hill, editors gave their stamp of approval on every single thing I ever wrote. And this was when the contributor platform, like, a lot of people could just go ahead and press publish, but that wasn't the case with me. Because I had written an article, and this is veering off, but I had written an article in the Huffington Post, 3 reasons why black men should openly carry. This is before I became a Second Amendment advocate. And you can look up that article. And it was regarding the police brutality that was going on. After that, they prevented me from from publishing, like, at will. So everything I wrote, especially every single article about Bernie, was given a stamp of approval by editors. And actually, like, they all went viral. So the editors, although they might have agreed with me, they might have disagreed with me. And one of the editors, who was my editor at the Huffington Post, is now an editor at the Daily Beast. But the Daily Beast wrote an unethical hit piece on me. Ross Story wrote like two hit pieces on me. One guy was like infatuated with me on a publication that no longer exists. Wrote like 5 hit pieces on me. I mean, Reddit was like, the venom was hilarious and bizarre. Because my articles were going viral and it was like, it was driving people completely batty. But even to this day, people still talk about me on Twitter. Like all of these, like, Democratic Party hardcore pundits are like, and the YouTubers on the left, none of them like me. Why? Because I broke the mold. I made a clear delineation. I said, hey, you have a criminal there, and the other person is Bernie Sanders. I didn't know that Bernie Sanders would eventually just be a coward, pretty much. He's a good human being, but he engaged in a cowardly act. He was cheated, and then he went along with the ridiculous notion that Russia informed the country he was cheated. It was the illegal and corrupt behavior of Democrats that got them into this mess. And they lost with Clinton in 2016. They're going to lose with her in 2020. Because, like I said, there's an extension of the Democratic Party. And it extends for me. I'm not going to get too much into it. But it's a direct line of communication. Very direct. It's an extension of me. What's up? The Democratic Party is an extension, essentially, of Bill and Hillary. And anyway, what I was saying, I guess my point was, they don't like you to fight back. So when they were trying to marginalize me, and it didn't work. It didn't work. Because my writing speaks for itself. I'm not always right, but in 2015, I said Clinton is unelectable. Favorability ratings make Clinton unelectable, and I explained exactly she would lose in swing states. Favorability ratings with Trump are very different. He is like the heel in a WWF match. Like, it works for Trump. It doesn't work for Democrats, especially not Clinton. So when she doubles down and says, half the country is deplorable, that's not going to work. Then she transferred top secret intelligence outside the United States government. That's not good. Under the guise of convenience. Not good. Anyway, they want Trump to just acquiesce and say, oh yeah, do whatever you'd like to me. He fought back in a microscopic way. To an extent, I fought back, and they couldn't touch me after that. They tried to silence me. Didn't work. Didn't work because at the end of the day, I was right. So now people are calling, in a disparaging way, they utilize my name to disparage people on the left. You're the next A.J. Goodman. I find that hilarious. I find that like a badge of honor. Because if I'm the antithesis, what these, some of whom are sociopaths, what these people think is a great journalist, great, awesome. I would love to be the antithesis of what people who think Facebook ads swung the election, what they view to be, opposite of their value system. Anyway, They wanted Trump to acquiesce. He didn't. He fought back. He draws a clear line of distinction. Democrats engaged in criminal behavior. That's what he's saying. And that's what William Barr is saying when he says, yeah, there's a lot of questions. He knows the answers. He already knows. What is he going to say? He knows the answers. And the answers are indictments eventually, either before or after the election, very likely after the election, when Democrats lose again and their influence over the media and their influence in politics is at an all-time low. Give me your thoughts below. If you want to support my channel, my Patreon link is in the pinned comment. Thank you so very much. And check out my writing in the Federalist, the Daily Caller, and the Jerusalem Post. Thank you, everyone.